everyone, my name is Kaden Jones and I am presenting to you on Elizabeth Garrett Anderson. For some brief historical context, Elizabeth was born in 1836 in Aldeburgh, England. She had several siblings and a father who he was the person that influenced her the most as a younger child, and he taught her the many qualities that she expressed later in life, like an eagerness to learn and a whole lot of gumption. Her father was also the person that was really supportive of her when she was battling several different institutions that would not allow her to receive a doctorate and would not allow her name to be on the medical registry, which was the only way for any person to be able to practice medicine at that time. However, her father threatened to take this specific institution to court, where they had previously refused to allow her to take the examination that would give her the ability to put her name on the medical registry. And because of this, they reconsidered, and in 1866, Garrett's name could be found on the medical registry as the first female physician in Great Britain. In the following years, Garrett was able to obtain her doctorate as the first woman to receive that MD in France from the University of Paris. Later, in 1872, she opened the St. Mary's Dispensary for Women in London, which later became the New Hospital for Women and Children. She also helped establish the London School of Medicine for Women in 1874. This was the only institution in Britain that openly allowed women to take the examination that, if passed, would place their name on the medical registry. When examining Garrett's leadership qualities, I found there were three main factors that really shaped her into the leader that she became. One of those, as I've already mentioned, she had a very large support system of family and friends. Her father is a great example of that. And she also had two very influential colleagues that really sparked her interest in women's rights as well as being a woman in science. The second aspect of Elizabeth Garrett as a leader that I think really made her influential during that time was just the hardships that she experienced as she strove towards becoming a doctor. I thought that they really shaped who she was and really exemplified the person that she was and the leader that she could be. And finally, one of the reasons I think she was so influential during this time period was because of the several achievements that she had made. It made her a very significant role model in the women's rights movements and the ability for women to pursue higher educational opportunities as well as possibly a profession that had been seen as something only men could pursue or qualify for. One of the most influential figures in Garrett's life was a well-known feminist named Emily Davies, who can be seen in the picture to the left. Davies was one of the first people to discuss with Garrett the lack of education for women and the unfairness in opportunities that men have as compared to the role that women are supposed to take on. And these conversations really pushed Garrett to stray away from the typical life of an English woman. Davies' own passions towards women's rights is something that really inspired Garrett towards changing the education and bettering the opportunities that women could receive. Another very influential person in Garrett's life was Elizabeth Blackwell, and she was the person that really sparked Garrett's interest in pursuing a medical profession. In 1859, Garrett attended a lecture on medicine as a profession for ladies, and this was given by Blackwell, and she is actually the first woman in America to have graduated from a medical school and become a doctor. Garrett was not only inspired by Blackwell's feats as a woman, but it was more because of the obstacles that she faced towards becoming a physician. One of Garrett's first obstacles as a woman in science was fighting enrollment services, which basically made it impossible for women to be accepted into any medical schools. Garrett's only option, instead of enrolling in a medical school in London, was to work as a nurse at London's Middlesex Hospital. During this time, her composure and commitment to learning made her quite impressive to the dean and other doctors working there, and this was pretty much the only reason they allowed her to attend lectures and watch during surgeries and receive help in any other way. She was treated civilly, however, she was never really accepted as a student because of her gender. Along with this, at the Middlesex Hospital, other male students and faculty signed a petition that demanded female students must not be admitted into the institution, and because of this, Garrett was forced to leave. However, her determination and grit allowed her to push through this hard time. She would not be faltered by these outside factors that were trying to affect her long-term goals. Even with several years of knowledge and the necessary qualifications to become a registered physician, several institutions continually rejected Garrett's application to earn a doctorate. Along with this, she was repeatedly told that her name would never be put on the medical register as she was a woman, and this was the only way to be able to practice medicine as a profession. However, Garrett was very persistent, and she chose to change her path and pursue a licentiate from the Society of Apothecaries as a pharmacist. Basically, Garrett was constantly denied opportunities for bettering her education and learning more, and only after an extreme amount of persistence was she able to gain a doctorate, and this was even years after her name was placed on the medical registry. I think that the hardships that Garrett faced during this time were really what shaped her as a leader, but I think the achievements that she accomplished in her life is what made her so influential and a spotlight for women's rights, and she really displayed the magnitude of success a woman can gain when given equal access to the opportunities that men receive daily. A few other accomplishments that Garrett achieved, aside from the ones previously discussed, include her becoming the first female member of the British Medical Association. She was also the first female doctor to perform an ovariotomy. She became the first female dean of a medical institution, and finally, she became the first female mayor in Great Britain. And now to examine Garrett's leadership abilities. She would lead by example and really displayed that women were capable of handling any type of profession with composure and sensibleness. She stated that one is helped rather than hindered by being as much like a lady as lies in one's power. So she really believed that her femininity could be used to her advantage. She actually did kind of conform to society's typical gender-based standards, and she did this in order to break boundaries. She was very powerful, and because of this, she acted in the way that she knew that society would accept her. In other words, she really used the system already in place to her advantage and broke the system's restrictions on women in the process. As a leader, she really felt that she had a responsibility towards other women and wanted to provide the same opportunities that she got in her own life. When she established the first hospital for women, she was adamant about only allowing female employees, and even though a lot of the duties then fell on her shoulders, she was really passionate about this ideal. So I was actually able to find an archived document that was a transcription of an inaugural address that was given in 1877. And I really think that her speech really describes what her leadership qualities were. She was a person that maneuvered through the world of medicine and knew the best ways to be successful and become a doctor, and her first moment of speaking in front of a large audience was to help and give advice about the experiences that she had already endured. Towards the end of this address, she calmly indicated areas with which women would be scrutinized if they chose to pursue this profession. And along with this, she applied reason to those stereotypes that come with their gender. And I think this speaks to her feminism because she talked to the audience about higher levels of sympathy in women as well as their greater understanding of life. And a lot of men or the institutions in place at that time believed that these qualities would make for worse female doctors, and in reality what Garrett claimed was that this is exactly what would make them such great physicians. I thought it would be great to end with a quote with the ways that Elizabeth was described. It says, Elizabeth had shaped her own course, looking always to the ideal and approaching it steadily, step by step. No difficulties frightened her, no hostility undermined her calm dignity. And I think this is the perfect definition of the ways that she acted as a leader.